In today's video, we're going to look at verses 3 through 5. Verse 3 is very short, and then 4 and 5 go together. So I think we can accomplish this. So this is Deuteronomy 14, 3 through 5. Lo tochal ko toeva, zot ha-behema asher tochelu, shor se chesavim ve se izim. And then verse 5, Ayol utzvi ve'yachmor ve'ako ve'dishon ut'o vazamer. And so you might have noticed here we picked up several of these types of animals beginning right here in verse 4. And what we get in verse 3 then is the prohibition. You shall not eat any abomination. Now, Moses doesn't specify what kind of animals would be an abomination, but in this concept of food laws that is coming, you get this idea that as Israel restricts what they eat, they are regularly reminding themselves, one another, as they eat, of God's covenant relationship to be pure. Now, some of these animals may have been used in pagan practices of various sorts, and that's why they're restricted, or that sort of thing. But here we get not to eat anything of an abomination. And next we're going to get, this is the animal, or you might notice behema there, the wild beasts, oftentimes understood to be a collective singular. So you might even say these are the beasts which you shall eat. So we're going to get, don't eat an abomination, but here's what you can eat. Let's look at these verbs here real quick. We've got a call imperfect to ms right here of the verbal root achal, and then down here we get the call imperfect to mp of the same verbal root. And you may notice this is one of the verbs that gets that holum there as the preformative vowel, and then you get the quiescent aleph, similar to amar. So do not eat anything of an abomination, but these are the animals which you shall eat. And then we get three domesticated animals, the ox, and then we get one from the flock, or a young one of the sheep, and then we get a young one of the goats. And so you get those three domesticated animals. And then in verse 5, we begin with some of the wild animals. We get here the deer and the gazelle. Some of these are difficult to determine what they are. The next one is one of those, the roe buck or the roe deer, something like that. And then next we would get the wild goat. Next we have this word that could be an ibex or some type of antelope type deer. Then we get formally an antelope is understood in this one. And then lastly, a wild goat. And again, all of this is to maintain purity and holiness among God's people compared to the nations.